Smells really fresh, doesn't it? But I wasn't here. I wasn't there. I wasn't in there when it was in the wee toilet there. I wasn't in there. It was something I did before I went away, and it's just in my absence that it's got totally fresh and smells so good. It's a bar of soap, just a wee bar of Dove soap that I put in there before I went away down to England in my holidays the week before last. That wee toilet, I mean, this is basically the size of an outside toilet, isn't it? It's a garage conversion. The folk that we bought the house from, they did all this like this, but they built a wee toilet on the end there, and it's basic. It's really basic. I mean, I'm not going to have a shower or a bath or anything in here, am I? It's got the toilet, it's got the sink, and it's got the big kind of radiator thing to put your towel on. And they left one of these bottles in there. It's a kind of jam jar type thing. I think it must be IKEA. It's got that whole kind of functionalist dreamscape, kind of pseudo Bauhausian thing going on there, where it's like it's for your hand sanitizer, liquid soap stuff, and they left this. It's a glass jar, and you unscrew the wee kind of white top. The white top's got the squishy stuff. Now you push it down, and it squishes the gel or whatever onto your hand, the kind of gel soap. And they left it there when we bought this house 3 years ago, and I think it lasted me 2 years. And then for the last year, because I'm not in here to use the toilet primarily. I'm in here to do stuff and podcasting and stuff like that. So I'm just don't need it for a pee, really. So I'm not really spending a lot of time in there. So that lasted absolutely fine. And then for the last year, I've just been going, I must replace this. And I went through a wee phase where I was running the hot water in there, and I was getting the top off the wee kind of jam jar thing, and I was trying to get the last remnants. I was running the hot water into the bottom of the jar to kind of get the last wee remnants of soap off the bottom of the jar that was sticking to the bottom. And it reminded me, for all the world, of the Jimmy Greaves anecdote that he's talking about. The moment he realised he was an alcoholic was when his wife had chucked him out the house about 2 o'clock in the morning, and it was raining out the back door, and he goes into his bins and he gets an empty vodka bottle, and he's holding the vodka bottle up in the rain in the hope that rainwater will get in and it'll take a wee taste. He said just wanted a wee taste off the bottom of the inside of the vodka bottle. That's when he realised he had a problem. I was like that with the soap, but because I'm in here doing the Ranger stuff and all that, I don't want to. The last thing on my mind is replacing the soap in the wee bathroom. It's not a bathroom, it's a toilet. Because there's no one adjoining door through into the house, so I've got to go out the back door again. And by the time I've done that, the journey, from here across the wee back door into the back of the kitchen, back into the house, I forgot all about replacing soaps and things like that. That went on for a year, but yet just before, because it's such a sun trap in here, and I can't, there's only these wee front kind of windows, and the window and the toilet, and the window at the back there, on the door, and I can't have the windows open. I can't crack them open because neighbours walking past will hear me getting on and on about Rangers and slagging Celtic and stuff like that, and mixed company. I don't know who anybody supports. There's a lot of folk around here don't even care about football, but I just don't want to attract that kind of brick through the window. So I'll keep it shut, and if the sun is and it's been roasting here the last month, hasn't it? It gets a bit fusty. I'll come in after a few days. I go, it's a bit fusty in here. It's kind of clammy and all that. So I'll have to crack open the wee window and air the place. And because it's a wee toilet, and you get the stagnant water. It's just an extension toilet. The water in the bog. It gets a bit stagnant sometimes. So I thought, just before we went on holiday, that's like the soap, and I purposely went back into the house, and we've got you get the plastic box of boots and all that. They're already set up with wee scooters on. I wasn't going to decant stuff like that into this wee kind of IKEA bottle thing, so I just took that into the house. I just got a bar of soap all day just as well, and I thought, no, Alec, you know what you like. The bar of soap, you'll be using that for months, and it'll get totally manky. It'll be spreading all the wee kind of clatty bits of soap all over your sink. So I found myself a wee dish, and I had to hunt through all stuff I've accumulated over the years at the back of this cupboard, and I found this wee soap dish that's like something kind of spinster in the 1890s would have had in her douce wee house, and it doesn't really suit. I didn't really know there was a kind of decor in this wee toilet until I brought in this kind of fancy soap dish, and I thought that doesn't suit this in here at all. But never, it's desperate times, so I put it. And I think what's happened is So I went away, I come back in here, I'd been away down south for like 7, 8 days. I come back in here after about 9 days, this wee bit all been sealed up, and I think it's going to be stinking in there because the sun's been belting in. But I think what's happened is the sun's actually belted in the toilet window, and it's melted the soap a wee bit. It's melted the bar of soap a wee bit, and it smelled fantastic. It still smells fantastic. It smells really fresh, so it's quite a pleasant surprise. I wasn't here, but things were improving. I wasn't there, but things were getting better. How you doing, folks? This is your Fat Eck, not in any way immediate post. Rangers continue to score 2 goals in every game at Ibrox under Russell Martin, and all these games are against clubs who've lost either the European Cup final or the UEFA Cup final, or in the case of Bruges, both of them, and have never won a European trophy. We could keep that run going if we're playing, Dundee United in our first game of the Premiership season next week, but no, it's Motherwell we're playing. But unlike I said, they've never won a European trophy, and that's behind me. That is a Fortuna Dusseldorf pennant. It's a great Fortuna Dusseldorf pennant, but because there's a wee spotlight in this kind of outside toilet conversion, it hits because it's got a plastic cover on it. It's bouncing off it. You can't see it right, but it's because they lost the Cup Winners' Cup final. Fortuna Dusseldorf. See, they lost the Cup Winners' Cup final in their one and only European final, 1979, and so they've lost that final. And then you would have, Real Betis are the only team that's just played in the Conference League final and only lost the Conference League final. I mean, Feyenoord and Fiorentina have also lost the Conference League final, but they've won other European trophies, they've won other European finals. So that would be all the 4 kind of historic European tournaments covered by teams that I've mentioned that have lost the final and haven't won another European trophy. And in each of these, if it's a friendly, we go 2-0 down and we bring it back to 2 each, but we score 2 goals in all of them. And in all 3 of these games, Findlay Curtis has scored. Reaction Pod coming to you in association with GERS. Back on your YouTube screens tonight, folks. This is Sunday. This is the day of the Women's European Championship final in Switzerland, England against Spain. But I think just after that's finished, YouTube, GERSnet channel, GERSnet back on, first pod of the new season, 9:30 live, and it's going to be Craig, it's going to be Colin, it's going to be Ross. So get on that like your kind of hood, the metal hood thing in the front of your motor, the front of your motor car. You lift it up and there's the engine's underneath it. It's a kind of metal bit. It's like a lid. It's at the front. I think you used to get it by the back. You'd have the engine in, but it's under this thing, and you lift it up, and you've got the oil and the water that you top up usually, or used to do anyway before these fancy new motors. But you get the engine under it. That bit at the front of your car. I don't know what the name of it is, but get on it like you would mount that. The GERSnet 9:30 p.m. Sunday night flagship show is back this evening, so check that out, folks. I'm sponsored by GERSnet, and I'm also sponsored by Simeone's. Simeone's, the fish and chip shop on Byers Road, used to be called Mario's Place. Mario's Place, and the place was spelt, like place, the fish. And before that, it was Jack McPhee's. Jack McPhee's Fresh for the Sea, because obviously aiming at the fish and chips. It's got to be attached bit. It's got to be kind of restaurant bit. You can sit and been in there many a time. We usually have the lasagna, actually, when I'm in there, with chips, obviously, wee can of Coke. Fantastic old school kind of, the wee restaurants used to get, you could sit in bits with most your Italian kind of chip shops in the west coast of Scotland, all over Scotland, I'd imagine. But I love all that. But I don't know if it was God. When I moved up here, when I moved to this part of Glasgow, back in the late 90s, it was Jack McPhee's. That was the name of it then. So I don't know if it's been, it has been called something else, but it's Mario's Place, where I finally got my fish supper. The fish supper I've been chasing. The fish supper I get the taste for it. Obviously, I've got a taste for all kind of suppers, all kind of chips and all that. Obviously, looking at me, you know that. But specifically, a chip shop, fish supper, hadn't had one for months and months. And when I was down in England, I was telling you this in my previous pod, I was down in England on holiday last week, or the week, just I come back up the road on Monday via Middlesbrough, and it was in the North York Moors, staying around about that area, and it was about the Friday. Was it the Friday? It was a Friday we were in. We'd actually escaped the North York Moors, had driven too far over towards the west and to go to, what's the place called again? Richmond, one of the 56 different places called Richmond. And we went there, and it was absolutely lovely. But we had like just a Costa and a sandwich and that, and then I came out, and there was a fish and chip shop right in the middle of the market square, and it was doing a great trade because I was a tourist, and it got me in the mood for a fish supper. And then the next day, the Saturday, we drove. Oh, we went around the North York Moors, and we ended up in Levo Abbey. And we came out there, and the way back, we attempted to do a kind of loop right round back to the digs. And so we drove the other down via the A170, and that took you through Helmsley, major market town in that area, really touristy, and it was mobbed with tourists still at kind of 5 o'clock on a Saturday night. But then just we turned the corner. There's only one kind of main road going through. We just turned the corner of the market square, and the rain. You know what the rain was like after the heavy kind of sunshine. It was a heavy rain all over the country, but it hit that area particularly badly, and it was actually pretty scary. It's some of the heaviest rain I've ever experienced driving in Britain, and I had to keep going. There was no way I could stop. And I saw this fish and chip shop, and I just had something. I had a sausage roll in the cafe at the Revaux Priory, Revaux Abbey, one of these places, Henry VIII put an end to. It's all very romantic. So I was in there. So I'd had a bit of stodge. Because you're drinking every night because you're on holiday. So the stodge, the need for it increases as the week goes on. But I just look at that place. We saw this big chip shop through the peeing rain. I'm like, look at that. My chip shop dar was kind of, oh, there, look at that. And it was called, was it Blue Ocean Blue or something like that? Right in the middle of the market square, and we knew we were going to come back to Helmsley and have a few hours there. We thought we'll do that tomorrow. I'm going to hold off for the fish supper until tomorrow. So I wanted it on Friday, and then I ended up. This was Sunday. I was putting it off to, and I tell you the whole story. I couldn't get the fish supper, and I couldn't get it in the whole. And I had a terrible time on the Sunday. The ship shop shut early and stuff. It was just a nightmare. And then you get back up the road. It gets to the point. It was Friday. It was just Friday just passed. I come back up the road last Monday. And a week tomorrow, I went back up the road for England, and it was Friday, just Friday there. Let's just go down to Byers Road, and it was Simeone's, and I finally got my first fish supper of the year, I think. No, I think I had one back in February time. At that time I went up to but I think it's the first one I've had for months, and I'll need to tell myself to stop doing that thing. I need to realise, because I know I love my chips. Obviously, you're looking at me. I know you're looking at me thinking, you have fast food all the time. I don't actually. Most of this is rotisserie chicken and cakes that I get from Morrison's these days. And beer, obviously, I'm a bit of a beer drinker. So I'm not getting the suppers and the chips and all that as much as I used to. But I keep forgetting. Because I'm a child of the 20th century, I keep, when you go in and they've got all this stuff in the kind of display oven thing, keeping all and you can see how many bits of fish they've got and how many black puddings they've got and the batter and all that and the chickens and when folk would say you just need to wait 2 minutes for chips, it was always a bit, get chips ready. It was always a bit of a scunner. It was a bit unusual. But nowadays, what it is, they're actually making everything fresh. So if you go in and ask for something, they'll just say 5 minutes. I remember going to a place in Anstruther, driving all the way to Anstruther, where I'd had a week on holiday and I'd experienced the fish suppers of Anstruther. Oh my God, that part of Fife, absolutely sensational. And one day, and it's so close to Glasgow, you go across the night, it's a nice drive as well. And one day we're like, why get a fish supper? It's a couple of years ago. We'll go back up to Anstruther, go to that chip shop and get in there. And because so the minute you know you're going to get the fish supper, the minute you get to, although I'm totally hungry, starving all the time, a big fat guy, I usually know what my next meal is going to be. And because of that, I'm also quite able to ignore other food because I know I've got something in the house that I'm going to have. I'm not going to spend any more money if I've got something in the house waiting for me. But the minute it's like official, we're going to go for a fish supper, we're going for a fish supper. I need it there and then. The lust overtakes me. And I remember driving all the way to Anstruther and getting there and getting the... I'm not just wasting time because I didn't go to the game yesterday. Right in the fish and chip shop in Anstruther, and the guy saying, give me a ticket. There was nobody there. I'm thinking, this is even better. By the time we get parked and all that, it's really awkward. It's mobbed in Anstruther. And I picked one of the chip shops that wasn't so busy that I'd kind of sussed out. Because there's queues outside the fish and chip shops in Anstruther. But there was one I'd kind of sussed out when I was there on holiday. And I was on foot for a week. I thought, we're going to go back there because it's always quieter, but the stuff's pure quality. And I got there and there was nobody else in it. And it's still lights. It's only like 4 o'clock in the afternoon or something like that. And I'm like, 2 fish suppers, please, my friend. He's like, okay, and he gives me a ticket number. Actually gives me a ticket. And he's like, it'll be 10 to 15 minutes. I'm like, what? And I'm thinking, like, he's kind of conning me. I'm thinking that's no very good service. And I went down to one in Prestwick a couple of years ago, and it was in the kind of wee high street in Prestwick, and it was like three older women that were kind of running the till, and it was efficiency beyond. You go in it and there's nothing. There is not. They've still got the old school, kind of fryer, the oven thing, the display oven, and there's nothing in it. I'm like, these days, fish and chips. Aye, what is it you're wanting? Fish supper. Right, aye, we'll just get in the same thing. You wait in the line. It's because they're making everything fresh now. No, sometimes you used to, back in my day, you'd get stale stuff that had been sitting in that display thing for like 2 days. The chips had been there since the night before. So it's actually better, but I can't help my initial reaction because I'm so greedy. And I've got the lust is like, what? I've got to wait, what? And folk have to, the folk are like, well, if you don't want to wait, mate, you can, F off somewhere else or whatever. I need to curb that because I know that's the case. I know that it's actually a better sign if they tell you to wait because it means the stuff's going to be proper fresh. But because it's like £1.20 to park for 15 minutes on Byers Road, because we can just get back up to the house in like 5 minutes for there, but in the motor, I thought we're just going to have it in the house. We're not going to sit in. So I'm like, the guy says 5 minutes. You're like, oh God, it's like I've put £1.20 in that, and I didn't have 20 pence on me, so I had to put £2 coins into things. I'd lost 80 pence in the deal already. 5 minutes, I'm like, oh, and he just looked away in time before I put my real sour face on. So it was ordered in good faith, and I saw him taking out the 2 bits of fresh fish and putting them into the fry, and that gave me and it was so worth it. The chips were fresh as well. Because sometimes you go to places, particularly I found this down in England, the worst kebab I ever had in my life was in Bury, having gone to Gig Lane to see Bury playing Stockport County in a M60 derby. But I went to a kebab shop later on that night, and it was rank. And I think there's places that actually think, oh, fast food, fatty food, greasy food, you deserve to get treated rubbish, because if you're eating rubbish, then we'll just give you it, we'll make it in a rubbish style. An afterthought. But no, in Scotland, and particularly in Glasgow, of course, we pride ourselves on doing proper fast food, we've got standards about what we're putting into our heart attacks. So this stuff was just done to perfection. It was absolutely glorious. And it was £11 for each fish. It was £21, which was the price of a ticket for the game against Middlesbrough. And I got a pickled onion. My wife likes a pickled onion as well, and of course I knew she wasn't going to be able to finish it. She wasn't going to be able to finish hers either. So I basically always get a fish supper and a half, and she got a pickled onion with hers as well. It's one of my earliest childhood. It was one of the greatest memories. I'm not a very daring person, going to the fair and all that. I didn't go on what you call it, the roller coaster. I didn't go on a roller coaster until I was drunk in like my late teens. Because I'm not a very daring person. I don't like to take chat. I don't like things that are exciting and all that. But one thing I did do by accident when I was a child was I took a pickled onion for the chip shop. And the guy had to thing with the jar as well. I thought I was going to have to give him a hand to get the lid off the jar of the pickled onions. They were fresh as well. Mario's, Simeone's. Now Diego wasn't in, but Simeone's on Byers Road. It's kind of, it's the only chip shop I think there is on Byers Road. No, I think there's one further down the bottom end. But it's like if you come out Hillhead Underground, like kind of cross where Roy Jenkins used to go down in his campaigning cars with his wife and waving to folk. If you go up to there, you go straight across the Hillhead Underground. You come out Hillhead Underground, go to the other side of Byers Road, and go to your right. And you have to cross one road where the Greggs used to be, and you go a bit further up. It's up there, Simeone's, and you had to take. So they were 50 pence each, so that was like £1, so it came to £22 altogether, which is what it would have been for the admin fee on the Rangers homepage ticket website. If I'd bought the ticket online, it would have been £22 altogether. I didn't spend that. I didn't go to the Middlesbrough game yesterday, folks. So, is that why you're bought? What is this? We've done, what's her name? Jane McDonald, Cruise Me Jane McDonald marathon on Channel 5 on a Sunday, to recover for the bevy, and then we're just going to segue straight into the Women's European Championship final on the BBC, STV, whatever it's on, both of them, I don't know. Why are you interrupting us? The game took place at 2 o'clock yesterday. All the real Rangers podcasters and that, they all had a post-match reaction pod up there for tea time Saturday, and this is us. You're interrupting us at Sunday tea time to gauge your half-hour stop. I didn't go, and I'm ashamed of myself. I wasn't at the game. I was sitting on my phone on Saturday night, and I was looking at my phone in my bed, into early hours. Sorry, it's Friday night, into early hours of Saturday morning, really, long after I'd had that glorious fish up. It was massive as well. It's hunnels, absolutely hunnels. Just one bit of fish, but it was an entire. I don't know what haddock. I should really know by now what type of fish it was, but it was bloody magic. And I was sitting later on in my bed, and I couldn't help myself. Look, I knew I wasn't going to go. I didn't really want to go either. It's a really strange thing. And I was on my phone, and I was looking at the ticket website. I thought, I'll just find out how much the tickets are and just find it. And I've got to admit, see, when you go into because normally I don't go into the Rangers ticket website because you'll be like me, you've got the season ticket, you've signed up for everything you want to go to. It's just a case of Rangers, you're in the continual credit card scheme. They get in touch with you and they go, right, there's a European game coming up. The ticket's the money's going to come out your account this date. You better have money in your account, or else you're bombed out. So you make sure you get the money in your account. That's how it works, really. So it's not often I'm in a situation where I have to, you feel like a stranger in your own house, having to apply, going to the ticket website for your own club, for a friendly that they're playing the next day against Middlesbrough, where I'd just been on the Monday. I drove through Middlesbrough about 4 times. I get lost, try to get back up the road for the North York Moors, and they do that thing on the Rangers ticket website where they show you Ibrox, the plan of Ibrox, the graphic, so you go and you click on the various sections to see how many seats are available and what price they are. But it's Ibrox without the roof, with no roofs. Kind of turns me on. I'm going to have to be honest with you, it kind of turns me on. That's not what I want to happen to Ibrox, obviously, because I've got a season ticket there and all that. Although I've got the club deck above me, still, I want as many roofs in the place as possible when it gets into winter time. It's actually more the sun. I hate the sun shining on me, so that's what I want the real shelter from. But it looks fantastic. There's something more dramatic about a stadium with no roofs on it, isn't it? No, roofs themselves are amazing constructions. They can look quite stunning in themselves, great feats of engineering. You see like, the Millennium Stadium, the Principality Stadium in Cardiff, like moving roofs. It's been particularly impressive from an engineering point of view and maybe aesthetically as well. See what Real Madrid have done with the Bernabeu. But I still think, because I grew up when the Ernst Happel, the National Stadium in Vienna, I'm not just wasting time talking about, rambling on about stuff because I don't know anything about the game yesterday because I wasn't at it. But the National Stadium in Vienna, it used to be called the Prater Stadium because in the Prater Park. I've been in it. But as I was growing up, it had the roof on it. I don't know when I think the roof went on in the early 80s, perhaps. The roof at the Prater is a massive roof because it's just a massive bowl-shaped stadium. But I didn't realise that. The same with the Olympic Stadium in Rome. As I say, the time I was kind of conscious of it. When you're a kid, you're watching games being played at these stadiums, but the cameras rarely pan back. You just see the front few rows of terrace and their seats or whatever. You don't really know what's going on with the roof. But I grew up, my knowledge of them, familiarity with them was with them having roofs, for the kind of 80s into the 90s and what have you. But then I would start getting these books about old stadiums and you would see old pictures of the internet age. You would see pictures of stadiums or stadium kind of Facebook pages and all that. And see the Prater Stadium without a roof, the way it was originally built, and see the Olympic Stadium in Rome without the roof. It just looks proper Colosseum. Like, even though the original Colosseum in Rome did have a roof on it, it looks spectacular. So the Ibrox did look particularly spectacular in that graphic on the Rangers ticketing website, which made it all the more painful that I wasn't going. I'm seeing a different kind of Ibrox. That's actually what the stadium looks like underneath the roofs. It's a quite spectacular stadium. I know it's a lovely stadium. It's my favourite stadium in the world, but it was just kind of making it. These wee things happen when you decide you're not going. I do nothing but go to Rangers games. I watch all the Rangers games on the telly, all the away games. I see them on the telly, or I'll pay for whatever website is showing it. If it's a game that the main kind of broadcasters aren't showing live on TV, I've got all the channels and all that. It's cost a bloody fortune. And I'll go to every home. That's what I made a big thing, didn't I? It's my own fault. I made a big thing about going to every single Rangers home game, be it whether we're playing out at Hampden or whether we're playing out at Ibrox. Last season was the first time I've been to every single home game, Rangers home game, for decades. I did every single home Scotland game as well, by coincidence, last season as well. And that was a big thing for me. And I kept going on about it, and it's like, this is what our third home game of this season, and I've missed it. That's me. I've blotted my copybook. But to set up an impossible kind of standard for myself, we are going to talk about the game. I have seen the highlights and that. I do have opinions on it. We will talk about it. It's only a friendly though, so we don't have to get right into it. But I'm going to do a preview later on in the week, maybe tomorrow, even for the Panathinaikos second leg. So I just need to explain myself. It's the start of a new season. really. So it's a good time for me to explain what the podcast's all about if you don't already know. And I think I made so many mistakes on the post-match reaction pod outside Ibrox for the Panathinaikos, the first leg on Tuesday night, because I was conscious that I was starting to come across like a bit of an expert. I think I was coming across as really intellectual, really deep, kind of philosopher, aesthete, etc. Because I was going to every home game, and that's a special thing. That makes me a better Rangers supporter than you. I'm just a better Rangers because I go to every single home game that Rangers play, and I'm like, no, that's not your USP, Alec. That's not your USP at the podcast here. This is the Fat Eck podcast. The podcast that, although not strictly speaking a Rangers podcast, is nevertheless the podcast that made you realise the market for Rangers podcasts was at saturation point. It was just, that'll do. We've got far too many now. But because I do this, my whole thing is, hey, I'm just an ordinary supporter, and I've got on the Rangers Review, Heart in Hand, This Is Ibrox, GERS, and Alec, please come, be our editor-in-chief, be our main man, we'll give you all sorts of money. They're just constantly asking me all the time. They're really not. But you're such an expert, Alec, on stuff that happened in 1983. Come on, be part. And I'm like, no, boys, I don't want to. Because then I'll just be part of the machine. I'll just be part of the media industry. I don't want to be in that press area. I don't want to be in there. I want to stand outside with the ordinary man and woman that supports Rangers. And it's difficult because I have an intellectual level that obviously separates me, puts me in a kind of higher echelon than you or anybody you know. But I try to be, I want to try and represent the common. I'm like Jeremy Corbyn, really. That's super intelligent and really patronising towards the working classes. But I'm fetishising you as a supporter, really, and I'm forming my own breakaway party, which is this podcast. And that's my whole thing. I do the outside Ibrox. I don't want to be inside. I'm inside Ibrox for the games, but the minute I'm in the press area and all that, I'm a journalist. I'm part of the problem. Fan media. It's just media. So I just want to be an ordinary guy, and I think it's got to this point where if I go to every single home game, that's kind of not an ordinary Rangers supporter, isn't it? That's a special Rangers supporter. Now, I don't go to away games, but I don't go to any away games. That's also a bit kind of extreme, isn't it? So I just thought it's time to chill out. It's time to... And so the podcast, the start of that, I think, was a podcast on Tuesday night where I forgot to use the phrase inverted fullbacks. Thanks, Andy Hillis there. He's legend of the Fat Eck pod. I've seen the fullbacks are doing something different. I didn't want to say inverted fullbacks because that's too technical. That's like Joshua Barry stuff. And you'd be like, oh, media, he's a media guy. We don't want to watch his podcast anymore. There was also the fact that I singularly failed to mention Thelo Asgard at any point. I forgot to mention I'm talking about. Oh, look, we've got playing wide left there. I mean, that's a bit of a blow for Oscar Cortez that he's not getting to play wide left tonight. I forgot to mention Thelo Asgard or the absences and all the players. There's a lot of players that we need to get rid of for the previous squad, and there's a lot of players we've brought in this new squad. I was just me trying to prove I was ordinary, because things slip your mind if you're an ordinary, down-to-earth, working-class Rangers supporters. So that's why I never mentioned. I also said the big thing in that pot. It's not snagging items, it's just me explaining how I deliberately made mistakes to be more in touch with the ordinary Rangers supporter. I said that anybody who was slagging Rangers the other night because of the slow start and the mistakes we were making in the first half and Panathinaikos nearly scoring goals. There was a few mumps and moans running about me, and I'm like, that's the tourists. That's the folk who... How could they not even have watched a podcast? How could they not even have watched any of the podcasts that have been made about Rangers over the last couple of days, where it's everybody knows that there's a new team, new head coach, everything's bedding in really slowly. It takes a while for all these things to come together, so there's going to be teething problems. There's going to be little moments in the match where we're not quite playing at our best. Most of the Rangers support, I think, was actually expecting us to lose this tie to Panathinaikos and maybe even fail to win the game at Ibrox, because we're aware how football works. We take on so many changes over the last 64 weeks as Rangers have done. But there was folk mumping and moaning. I'm thinking, hey, if you just watched any kind of podcast, it would tell you that we're not expecting Rangers to be brilliant in this game. We're expecting us to make mistakes. These folk are like mumping and moaning because we've made a few bad pass backs and things like that. What's their problem? They're not watching the... And in the same podcast I was doing, I then went on to say how that selection, by the way, you've got Max Aarons, who's a right back, playing left back. You've got Kieran Dow playing at all. know what I mean? Where he was, never mind what part of the park he was actually playing on. There's a few selections in there. I just don't think anybody could. I forgot to mention the fact that John Souttar was also playing at left centre half, because I think I'm just so used to seeing that when Connor Golson was still here. He got moved to left centre. I just forgot to. It just didn't occur to me. So the whole, kind of left-hand side of our defence was right-footed. So that's why the mistakes were occurring in that part of the field. But I forgot to mention that, and I did say how there was so many changes, so many players in different positions. Nobody could have guessed that starting 11. And the next day I watched the Rangers Review post-match reaction pod, and Joshua Barry had predicted it the day before. So I'm accusing folk of not watching the right podcast, and I hadn't watched the Rangers Review, pre-match podcast where Joshua Barry had predicted the exact starting 11, and he picks up a wee graphic in the Rangers Review podcast of last Tuesday morning, and he say I think he had Diamandi and Raskin on the night. He even corrected that. No, they're going to be both playing at 8. But he's like, no, Raskin's going to be on the left-hand side and Diamandi's going to be on the right. That's right. It's absolutely spot on. So that's knowledge. That's just being there. Go to all the games. Go to all the home games. If you're not there, there's stuff you're going to miss. That's what I've done. I didn't go to the game yesterday. But if I had done, I'd be too much of an expert. I would be a journalist, and you couldn't trust this. The whole point of this podcast of mine is, I think, I'm not telling you any kind of news or tactical information that you don't already, that you can't get anywhere else. Basically, because I don't know anything about Rangers news or tactical information. For me, what is the point of me then if I'm not telling you anything about Rangers you don't know? Well, it's to let folk know in this kind of world of social media extremes, this world where like Corbyn and Corbynistas are so sick of the Labour Party not being far left enough that they've broke away and formed their own party, and you've got even the kind of Eurosceptic Tories that crashed us into Brexit. That's still not extreme enough for them, so they're going away and they're joining Reform or trying to be even more right wing than the Reform wankers and that kind of thing. This world where the police can't actually find missing persons or conduct proper murder investigations or find out if it is a murder or a death, because there's so many arseholes in social media that are so determined that the world's got to fit into their small-minded kind of salacious needs, that they're going to these crime scenes and infecting them, corrupting them. If the police are losing evidence and stuff like that, it's actually getting in the way of solving crimes, because there's so many folk just, and you end up getting folk like Donald Trump getting elected and Boris Johnson, because the whole world of people just going along with all the extremes on me. I want to just prove that there's ordinary folk. I want to just prove that everybody, surely the vast majority of folk are just kind of ordinary. We've got kind of in the middle of the road. If you're in the middle of the road, you're going to get run down. But no, that's how the world works. The world only works if we all compromise. The world only all works if we take a bit of grief and we give you a wee bit of grief back just to keep things in an equilibrium. I'm trying to do that with Rangers. James Tavernier isn't he the greatest player that's ever played football, and neither is he the devil that's the reason for everything that's gone wrong at Rangers over the last 10 years. James Tavernier is a very particular hero who was here at a very particular time at this very particular club of ours history. And there should be statues for him, but not because I think he's the greatest player of all time. It's just people get it. The vast majority of people actually get it. It's not about everybody having to be brilliant or everybody having to be shite. There's middle ground. There's so many grey areas, and I try to represent that. And I try to represent that with the way I support Rangers as well. I'm only going to half of our games, but I realise it become too much. It become kind of every single home game Rangers played, and zero away games. Now, I'm going to games that happen. You could say maybe semi-finals and finals at Hampden are maybe they're technically away games, but it's neutral venue. But I've been to one single away game since we went into the lower leagues, since 2011, 2012. It's not a conscious thing. It wasn't a conscious thing, but I kind of wasn't in any way inclined to give other teams money, and I should have gone to more away games in the lower league days, because with the teams the third and the fourth and third tier of Scottish football welcoming us back in, it would have been. But I just felt I felt kind of bad towards the rest of Scottish football back then, but I wasn't conscious. I don't think it was a conscious decision not to go to away games. It was a very easy subconscious decision to make after everything that had happened in 2012. And when I spent so much of my previous life, when I spent so much of my life before 2012, you know, I'm old enough to have stood on the old open terrace in the Easter Road and the death trap that was the old away end at Tynecastle and stuff like that, you know, and the piss and rain and things like that. And then suddenly it was, no, we don't need you, fuck off. It's like, well, he really did need us. He needed more money all the time. I was growing up, the years I was growing up. So I was it? My pal Diane, she had a ticket for the game at, her and Robert were going to game it against Livingston in the League Cup quarter final under Steven Gerrard. 2019-20 that would be, September time, and Diane couldn't make it, so she gave me a ticket and I went to that. That was the only, me and Robert went along to that game. That's the only actual away game I've been to watching Rangers in the last 10 years. So what I'll try and do this season, it was a statement yesterday. It was a statement. It wasn't because I didn't have any money and I spent £21 on a fish supper instead of a ticket for Ibrox. So you get fish on a Friday, Alec, and then didn't go to see Rangers on a Saturday. Is there something you want to tell us, Mel? I told you, but my family didn't. I told you half my family goes that way. So I might finally just have had a wee conversion after having gone to Revo Abbey and see those nasty Protestants did back in the 1500s. But I think I need to try and kind of lighten it up a bit, don't I? I need to try and lighten up. So I'll miss out a few home games this season, I would imagine. Go back to my normal routine. But maybe I'll try to counter that by going to a few away games. Livingston are back in the top flight. That's the only place we seem to get an allocate. I mean, you can't go to, nobody can go to all Rangers home and away games, you know, and I'm not saying anybody who does is an extremist. Depends on your attitude. You're just like, I love Rangers, I want to spend all my money watching Rangers home and away. But it's very difficult to get allocated, even if all the home fans were, you know, ejected, as they should be, from their own stadiums where Rangers came to play them. The stadiums aren't big enough. Only Parkhead would be big enough to accommodate all the Rangers season ticket holders. So it's impossible for any Rangers supporter, really. I mean, there is guys who do it, obviously. They're in with everybody they need to be in with and all that. And they've got all the loyalty points they need. There is guys who manage to make it to every single game, home and away. But a lot of them end up becoming, you know, fan media, and it's just, you're a journalist that's sitting in with the supporters. So I might kind of make it more ordinary, and that started yesterday. My battle to make sure I stay down to earth, because I'm a genius, obviously, so I'm better than you. I'm a better Rangers supporter than you, but that's going to make it hard for you to associate with this podcast of mine, and then I'll not be able to screw you for lots of money, so I can go on more holidays down south when you're watching my podcast. So yeah, that was extreme. It was quite weird not to go to the game yesterday. It was weird, and the thing is, I didn't go anywhere else. It's not like I had something else to do. I thought I was going to. That's the whole thing. I thought I was going to. The holidays have been kind of a bit. My wife's a teacher, so you know she's got the whole kind of 6 weeks off. So we have to plan. You know, we're going to go away for a week here, and we go away for a week there, and then a few days dotted about in between times. And you know, I've got stuff today. Obviously, I can't be on holiday for 6 weeks at a time. But you're planning different things, but some of them kind of fell through, and I was allowed to mess about certain things, so I could go to the Findlay against Bruges. I'd never seen Bruges before, and then I did it. So what we're supposed to be doing yesterday kind of fell through, but at that point I hadn't got a ticket, and I wasn't ready to go. I just felt as if it was time not to go to a game, not to go to a Rangers game that I could go to. But because I'm in this situation where I'm sitting, like, I mean, I can be at Ibrox, I'll leave here like 1:15 sometimes, and I'm in my seat for 5 to 3 if it was a 3 o'clock kick-off. It basically takes me less than 3/4 of an hour to get from like my front door to my seat at Ibrox. So when it's that close, when I'm only like 4 or 5 miles away from Ibrox itself, it seems wrong to then watch the game on Rangers TV, to spend, was it £7.99, £8 to watch the game on Rangers TV. So I've ended up not seeing the game at all. A friendly against Middlesbrough being played like a 4 or 5 mile walk away from me. There's no way I'm going to, that's stupid to get Rangers TV to buy live coverage that, but I could just walk into that game and buy a ticket. But because I didn't do that, I'd not seen the game at all. So it's really, I don't know what was going through my mind. So I ended up in the house. And the first, I'm sitting watching the updates. I thought about doing a live pod, not a live watch along, where it's just me sitting looking at my phone for updates. Just flicking, refreshing my phone. Oh, we're going to beat 1-0. What'd you up to last night? Oh, we're going to beat 2-0. Just do you think he's playing hefty at left back, or is he playing him right up? That would have been quite funny, or if it's certainly been no more boring than this particular pod. But I started thinking, when was the last time I'm watching it in Sky Sports News, and the most excited person I saw building up to the game was Rob Edwards, the Middlesbrough manager. He's getting interviewed trackside like a quarter of an hour before kick-off, just in the technical area. Wee guy for Sky saying to him, and he was buzzing. He's absolutely buzzing. And he's going, because he's just taken over as manager. They get rid of England International. The guy, did he play for Real Madrid as well? The guy, what's his name? No, it was Man U, Michael Carrick. It's Man U's not mixed him up with the other guy. Michael Carrick, they get rid of him just at the end of last season. And so this guy's basically a new manager. He's not really had Middlesbrough in a properly competitive game or a big game yet. And he's like, I'm buzzing, totally buzzing. I mean, when you turn up at the front door and you see that, that's amazing. And I thought he was talking about what a place to take your team for a friendly, which it is, Ibrox. I thought it was he was talking about the main stand, Archibald Leitch's masterpiece. And I thought, that's nice, that's awful nice, the guy. I think what he meant was there was 7,000 Middlesbrough supporters there. I didn't realise this at the time. I had no idea, because I was checking the wee the graphic, the computer, the ticket website the night before, and the whole Brimlin was shut. You couldn't get a ticket for the Brimlin, and I thought that meant, they're not expecting much of a crowd, so they're just going to shut a stand. It's going to be a sub kind of 30,000 crowd, so they're going to shut a stand. No, it meant Middlesbrough had taken that entire stand. Who would have thought? Who would have thought that after we stopped giving Celtic the full Brimlin Road stand, the next away team to fill the whole Brimlin Road stand, it would be Middlesbrough. Quite incredible, because I went to see we played Middlesbrough before. It was Paul Le Guen's pre-season. Paul Le Guen's one and only pre-season, I'm sure. We played Middlesbrough in a friendly at Ibrox, and I went along to that one, and Thomas Buffel, I think it was Thomas Buffel, scored the only goal of the game. We beat them 1-0, and they had a support there, but it wasn't exactly massive. I don't remember it being massive anyway. I'm flattered they think that much. Maybe they just want to support their team. Maybe there's a stag do on or something like that. Just they were having it in Glasgow, and it was kind of extra busy. But it was quite incredible to see the size of support they brought. And then I'm watching the updates for Sky Sports News, but I'm not seeing the action. It's quite a weird thing. And the confusion started, the real confusion, that the problem going to the game, of course, is even the team selection. My name is Alec Anderson. All day long I think of things, but nothing seems to satisfy. Think I'll lose my mind if I don't find something to pacify. Can you help me? Occupy my brain. Oh, yeah. Ozzy. My name's Alec Anderson. I say this is the Fat Eck podcast, and I think the confusion from the real problem started from me yesterday. You're thinking, what difference can it make, to knowing what's happening at Rangers? Me missing one home game, the first home game I had missed since we drew 3 each with Celtic in April 2024. So it's about 15, 16 months or something. And what a game to miss. But it was my 25th wedding anniversary, and the wife had always wanted to go to Dollywood. She wanted to go to Nashville and stuff like that. So I've always wanted to go to Nashville and that as well, but she wanted to go to So I'm actually in a Dolly Parton hotel, a Dolly Parton resort, watching it on my wee phone at like 7 o'clock in the morning, that 3 each draw. So that was quite a thing, quite an experience. But that's the last home game I've missed. But the last time I missed Rangers at home while I was sat at home, it might have been January 2024. We drew 2 each with Copenhagen. We had a friendly against Copenhagen. We drew 2 each. I wasn't at that game. I don't know if I was something else. I can't remember what I was doing. But I know for a fact I wasn't at the game where Harry Kane's at 23rd of July 2022, when Harry Kane scored 2 goals for Spurs. And Cholak scored for us a midweek pre-season friendly. So that's over 3 years ago. And I was here in this very room with an extension with a wee toilet, and I know that because I was doing the only reason I didn't go to the game is because I had a deadline to meet, because I was doing a thing for the Oxford Dictionary National Biography on Eric Caldo. So I was doing Rangers stuff. It was a wee bio, a kind of 1,000 word bio of the late great Eric Caldo that I was doing. I was doing Rangers stuff while Rangers were playing, and it felt bad even then not to go to the game. But I'm reading about Eric Caldo, how loyal can you get? A great servant. I can't get off my arse and get to Ibrox and back because I would rather. So I felt guilty. I felt bad, but because I do it so rarely, I completely forgot what that it was going to cost me in terms of knowledge about Rangers. So I'm looking at the lineup, for example. This started with the lineup, and I'm having to go into the computer here to check this. And of course, the computer is as slow as me. I'm going to the Rangers review. The Rangers review podcast, listen to their build up to the game. They're giving us the first 11. You get the Rangers putting out tweets as well. But for example, the Rangers, the only formation Rangers put out the first 11. But squad numbers these days, they just list the players. They don't tell you the formation they're playing in. So before the game, you knew the starting 11, and it was 9 changes, of course. 11 changes from the starting 11 on Tuesday against Panathinaikos. So it's obviously another day where the manager just want to. It's a head coach. It's a head coach. I need to get electrodes or something to stop me calling the manager. Zap me every time I say that. I need to drag myself into the 21st century. Head coach Russell Martin was obviously making mad changes, 11 changes from the starting lineup against Panathinaikos the other night. So it's obviously going to be kind of fringe players or players needing to get minutes into the leg. We're going to get a wee run out against Middlesbrough. But that starting 11, the Rangers Review put it up in the form of, on their Twitter page, on the form of the lineup, on the form, a kind of wee diagram, a wee graphic that's the formation. So they've got Liam Kelly, who was captain for the day. Liam Kelly, nice one, Liam. He's in goals. And this is where the problem started. So they had Bailey Rice at centre-half. Everybody's like, Bailey Rice must be playing centre-half. No, and big Bailey Rice, he's not even 19 yet. But he is big. We know how big Bailey Rice is. Sitting mid, you think is his position. But I think I heard somebody saying he'd played there in the closed doors games we had against like Hamilton and Dunfermline recently. So Bailey Rice is at centre-half, we're thinking, alongside Emmanuel Fernandez, who we signed from Peterborough. He's definitely a centre-half, absolute unit. He's in there. And Hefty at left-back, young Xander Hutton, he's playing at right-back. That seems absolutely fine. This is the Rangers Review. They're saying it's a 4-4-2. They're saying Rangers are going to play in a 4-4-2. And this is a post that they've put up, obviously, before the game kicks off, because they've got Joshua Barry, tactical genius, who knows what kind of foot everybody plays off and what positions the manager, head coach wants them to play in. He's got Bajrami and Connor Barron's two sitting midfielders, really, but you got Oscar Cortez on the left-hand side. In the left wing, and Jerry Gassama playing the right wing. Up front, you've got Josh Gentles and Cyril Dessers. Now, this was the starting 11. These are the players who took the pitch, but this is the formation that the Rangers Review was saying, 4-4-2. This is how they're going to set up, and nobody knows these things better than the Rangers Review, so that was an educated guess. I thought that was fine. But then after the game, I go in and I looked at the Rangers official match report, the official match report on the Rangers website. And it says, and I quote, Liam Kelly started in goal behind a back four of Oscar Cortez, Xander Hutton, Emmanuel Fernandez, and Hefty. Oscar Cortez. He's playing at left back, Hefty's playing at right back. Xander Hutton's went into centre half alongside Emmanuel Fernandez. I think Emmanuel Fernandez definitely played centre half, but this was quite strange. And so they've said Connor Barron and Bailey Rice took up positions in midfield, with Nadeem Bajrami joining them in an advanced role. Cyril Dessers led the line with support from Jerry Gassama and Josh Gentles. So I think they've got Rangers playing the official Rangers website. Their match report, this is after the game's been played, is saying Rangers were playing a 4-2-1-3 with Oscar Cortez playing at left back and Hefty playing at right back. Now, then, after the game, Rangers put out on their YouTube channel 9 minutes of footage of the game, 9 minutes. And I'm watching, instead of watching the goals and things, I'm like, is Hefty running back from the right back position, or is he playing at left back? Bailey Rice is nowhere to be seen when it comes to centre half stuff in any of the action. I mean, the defending was absolutely terrible at set pieces. So even if Bailey Rice is playing midfield, he's going to come back because he's so big. He's going to get drawn back to mark up at corners and stuff like that. So he's going to be in that area at set pieces. But I can't tell if he's actually supposed to be playing at centre half, or if it was some sort of with three at the back and Bailey Rice was supposed to push up. Basically, I paid the price And it's not about whether the podcast is for you or whether it's for me or what. I just want to know. I love Rangers. I just want to know what's happening. I want to know what's going on. So going to somebody tell me. I'll find out probably more in the Rangers review. They'll have a big report on it first thing in the morning. They have their regular morning show in the Rangers review. But I still don't know what's happened. So I feel as if I'm not really entitled to do any kind of match report. I never really do. It's always a match reaction that I do anyway. But I'm just generally confused as to what actually happened. It's quite weird. I watched the 9 minutes of footage and I saw what happened with the goals. I think we had a bit of a nightmare before even the 9th minute when Middlesbrough scored their goal. Our defence has obviously played really high. They've got in behind us really easily, and it's only kind of Liam Kelly and Hefty at the last minute that managed to clear it. But I couldn't help thinking to myself, Harry Pearson. I was in Middlesbrough on Monday, as I said to you, driving about there. I never usually get lost in Middlesbrough. It's really weird. It's obviously a sign that they were going to. We were 2-0 down to Middlesbrough after 57 minutes yesterday. I'm thinking, yeah, the sign was there. When I get lost in Middlesbrough for the first time in my life, driving through Middlesbrough, I took the wrong road or I went too far or something in my way back up to Scotland, because I don't want to have to drive across the M8. I don't want to go right up the East Coast and go across for Edinburgh. It's just depressing. So I always like to cross, Scottish Corner. If I'm on the East Coast of England, I want to cross Scottish Corner, even if that means I've got to go a bit up the way and waste a bit of time going back down the way. I want to go across the A66 and get stuck at the traffic that's coming out of Centre Parks and going to the M6. It just feels nicer that way. Plus, it's beautiful. The A66 is beautiful. A beautiful way to cross the country. But I remember, I think I was near my seat. That's the other kind of aspect of no being at the game and having been to every single home game for the whole of last season. Who was sitting in my seat yesterday? Because when I saw that Middlesbrough support, I'm thinking that I spent the whole time thinking they're going to be in the far corner. I was set up thinking that would because Harry Pearson, I mentioned him in my post-match reaction of the Panathinaikos, that When Saturday Comes journalist. He's an all-round great sports writer, Harry Pearson. He's a legend at When Saturday Comes. He's on the podcast and all that as well, that the When Saturday Comes put out. He's got a column. He's put out lots of great books, really interesting books, but the only one I've read, to my shame, is The Far Corner. In The Far Corner, which is probably his most famous book about football in the northeast of England. He's a Middlesbrough supporter. So is Daniel Gray, who also I think is an editor at Nutmeg, and he has books out, a kind of legend at When Saturday Comes as well. I think with English football, Middlesbrough supporters seem to be the kind of same cornerstone that your Islanders, people from the islands, are for Scottish for BBC Scotland. I think it's just because they can get them on a retainer and they can do all the Gaelic TV programmes and be on the news and all that for the rest of us. But it's quite interesting, the Middlesbrough supporters' effect on its kind of proper football writing. But I was thinking, Harry Pearson, because that corner, the away corner between the Broomloan and the Govan, between the Broomloan and the Sandy Jardin, the traditional wee away corner at Ibrox, that's where the Boro fans are going to be. And that'll be the far corner because it's diagonally opposite where I sit. I sit in the main stand, just right over towards the kind of Copeland side. So it's like the far corner. It's the far away part of Ibrox. That's going to be the far. But I don't know if Harry Pearson's next book's going to be called the Big End or something like that. It should be, because what a support they had there yesterday, and the kind of weirdest things that were happening yesterday. Well, Rangers are playing in their away strip. No, obviously it's a kind of Unibet 0% mission derby, which is kind of Castore against Castore, even though we were in Umbro. I think Umbro are still involved with Castore. We're in our second kit of a white shirt with kind of red and blue chest panels, blue shorts, white socks, very similar to what England's women will be wearing against Spain in Basel tomorrow night as they meet in another final. It's just the third straight summer we have major England against Spain final, Euros, World Cup. Yeah. But also we're shooting towards the Copeland yesterday. We're shooting towards the Copeland in the first half, and who would have thought the first away supporters, I say to fill the room since Celtic, was going to be Middlesbrough. It was a 2:00 kickoff on a Saturday, and then our head coach I saw clips of our head coaches sitting in front of Archibald Leach's kind of blue lattice steel balcony work for the second half. It's just very This is Ranger Things, Chapter 8. the upside down, where left-footed players playing the right-hand side, right-footed players playing the left-hand side, and my nose is bleeding because I'm in this kind of metal box, but some 4 miles away. I'm making Rangers come back for 2-0 down to 2 each. At 9th minute, Middlesbrough eventually opened the scoring towards that big support. That's quite good. They're playing, the first half they're shooting towards the away end. And the captain, it was a corner to Middlesbrough. I've seen the highlights here, so I know what I'm talking about to a certain extent. Flick on from the captain, Daniel Fry, and it arrives basically on the feet of Neto Borges. He's just, the ball kind of hits off his toe into the back of net. Great positioning from him, but the big story here, it kind of bounces off him basically, but the big story here is just how shocking our defending was. Liam Kelly's absolutely stranded and rooted to the spot. It's a front post flick on. Everybody was stock still. I've watched the goal back a couple of times. Everybody we've got in that box is not going to their man. Is standing. I think it's Hefty for a start is missing the first ball. The Middlesbrough captain Fry getting the flick on, and we're just standing watching as Middlesbrough just let the ball basically bounce off the guy's feet into the bottom of the net. Liam Kelly's fairly helpless. Maybe he should have come out to it as well. I don't know. But just after that, they hit the inside of the post. I think it was Morgan Whittaker, the kind of star man Middlesbrough. They hit the inside of the post, just cutting it right across our defence, the 6-yard line. It comes back off the inside of the post. We did well to clear it. There's another good save, I think, from Morgan Whittaker by Liam Kelly. They had the ball in the back of the net. Middlesbrough again. Tommy Conway. It was not given, and it was not offside. It was flagged for offside. They have controversial decisions, but it was flagged for offside. And it really wasn't. Seen the replay back, the guy wasn't offside. It should have been 2-0 to Middlesbrough at that point. Just before half time, there is a moment where a Rangers player, who is it? I think it might be Xander Hutton, put somebody down in the box, kind of stands still and checks the run of somebody just at the edge of our box. It looked like a penalty to me. It did look like a penalty. So Middlesbrough denied a penalty, perhaps, and a legitimate goal. Definitely no VAR at the game. Lyle Cameron come on for Dessers at half-time, but before half-time there was a ball into the box where Middlesbrough's number 12, what's his name, Luke Ayling. Is he Luke Ayling? He goes up and just basically punches the ball. It comes off Emmanuel Fernandez's head. I think it's a corner to us. It's played into the box. Emmanuel Fernandez goes up, and this fella's jumping up behind him. Luke Ayling has got his hand in the air. The ball goes on his hand, but it's absolutely blatant. Maybe it's that the ball being played onto his hand. Doesn't matter. It was an absolutely blatant penalty. Blatant handball, not given. I did that back, I think, about 1989, 1990 at Barfields and Largs Thistles ground. I don't know if they still rent it out, but it used to be grass back then. I think it's plastic now. Barfields, one of the most beautiful grounds in junior football, Barfields, Largs Thistle. And used to play up at Inverclyde all the time with the plastic pitches, but I was working for ATMA's kind of head office in Saltcoats. I'm for Drossen, so I was a local employer, so I'd get a game. And I think I just basically worked at ATMA so I could get a game at 11 a side because I was crap at football at school and all that, and the fit team at ATMA's was so bad that I could get into it. And I demonstrated how bad I was. We were playing the RNLI, Largs RNLI. I knew a lot of the boys there. We used to play them all the time. 11 sides up at Largs. And this time was at Barfields. It's Sunday night. And I just remember coming out. I was young. I was going to prove myself. I was going to win everything. I was going to dominate in the air. And I just came out and I punched the ball. Willie Benson, the goalkeeper, he saved it. He saved the penalty. Thank God. Saved my skin. But I did exactly the same thing, playing like pub league football. It was a clear penalty. But John Beaton, the Mason who drinks in Rangers pubs, didn't, trying too hard to prove that it wasn't, he's no bias towards Rangers, did not give this penalty, and unbeknownst to me, because I wasn't paying enough attention, our head coach gets sent off by John Beaton. He was waiting for him down the tunnel to ask what the hell was going on there, but I think he said himself later on in the press conference, Russell Martin, was actually angry at his team for being really poor, for being absolutely shocking in that first half. This kind of second string 11 he'd put out, he said their attitude was terrible, and so it appeared. The only substitution he made at half time, he's probably given them a gutting out and said, right, you've got quarter of an hour to prove yourself, but the only change he made at half-time was bringing on Lyle Cameron for Cyril Dessers. The other change being that the Gaffer was going from the technical area to the stand, but instead of going, he's really stretched the point of being in the main stand onto that wee gantry in front of the actual, the Archibald Leeds balcony. You're basically dangling in mid-air, so he's hovering above the technical area, really hovering above the enclosure. But that wasn't enough. Lyle Cameron coming on for Cyril Dessers wasn't enough, because in the 57th minute, Bajrami fouls somebody from Middlesbrough out on this is Middlesbrough shooting into the Copeland in the second half, out on our kind of right hand side, halfway up the wing on the Govan stand side. They play an outswinger to our back post area, and an outswinging free kick Middlesbrough put in, and their captain Dale Fry, is more isolated than what's his name? Rudolf Hess probably felt when he jumped to his Messerschmitt or his Focke-Wulf when he'd been shot down for a plane scrambled from air. It was Ayrshire, the plane was scrambled during the Second World War, early 40s. Rudolf Hess jumping out the Messerschmitt because he wanted to have a word with the Duke of Hamilton about a possible alliance with Great Britain during the Second World War, and that's the last time a Nazi flew into Ayrshire. So Dale Fry was more isolated than anybody. It was absolutely terrible. He was completely unmarked to the kind of back post area. He plays it first time, lovely ball, just cuts it straight back across the goal. Same thing happened with the ball we played for the first goal for Middlesbrough. It hits off. It's such a good ball that his fellow Middlesbrough players in their kind of Turkey circa 1985 kit, or VfB Stuttgart anytime in their history away kit, that beautiful Middlesbrough strip with the white band right across the chest, they hits off the outside of the guy's foot and comes back across to Fry, the Middlesbrough captain, who gets a second chance, totally unmarked, to play the ball right back across the 6-yard box again. But this time he just puts it into the bottom corner. It was just like exposing how horrendous our defence was, and a couple of times before finally putting the ball into the back of the net. That's 2-0 to Middlesbrough. I'm watching this getting updated on Sky Sports News as I'm sitting trying to have some lunch, thinking, how could I possibly do a post-match reaction pod to this? I don't actually know what's going on. Rangers, 60th minute, that's enough for Russell Martin, our head coach. He decides he's going to start making the substitutions, and I think he made 6 substitutions at this point. I am reading this off the official Rangers website. You probably know what it is anyway. But Xander Hutton goes off, and Giga comes on. Nasser Giga. Nico Raskin comes on for Bailey Rice. Max Aarons comes on for Hefty at left back. So bring on a right back to replace an actual left wing back. That's bad for Hefty. Kieran Dowell comes on for Bajrami. That's quite amazing that Bajrami still can't convince. He's still, despite having a pre-season under him, necessarily, maybe the manager was convinced by him and just decided an hour would do him and needed to get Kieran Dowell a half hour into Kieran Dowell. It's also amazing that Kieran Dowell is becoming a player for Russell Martin. I did call him the manager there again, didn't I? So Findlay Curtis, he comes on for JD Gassama. Now JD Gassama, he must have been thinking, Christ, I had my 10 minutes, absolute glory, place going mental, what a way to arrive at Rangers, and then wham, bam, I'm straight back to what I was getting away from. I'm playing a championship side. I'm playing an EFL championship side, Saturday afternoon, and there's like 7,000 Middlesbrough fans there just to make it feel even more like a championship game. Have I really had a transfer? Have I really moved on to the Champions League football here? What's happening? Middlesbrough's biggest attendance last season was against Sheffield Wednesday in the Championship on Boxing Day, and they were 3-0 up Middlesbrough in that game at half-time, and they drew the game 3 each. Before the hour, Sheffield Wednesday had brought it back to 3 each. Gassama started that game as well. He got subbed off later on. He didn't get a goal, he did get a booking, but Josh Windus, he did score in that game. So there's a wee kind of, the Middlesbrough fans might have started thinking, this is what always happens when that JD Gassama's involved. We think we're going to win the game, but no. The substitutions were made, and I say Gassama, he comes off, replaced by brilliant Findlay Curtis. Tav comes on for Cortez. Danilo comes on for Josh Gentles. I say Lyle Cameron was already on the park at that time, and the 64th minute or 63rd minute, as he took the ball at his feet. He's facing his own centre back that he took the ball from, and he twists. He does a wee kind of stop and start, and away he goes, making a lovely bit of space for himself, pushing us over the halfway line. He gives it out to, I think, Kieran Dow, who fires it back to a kind of advanced midfield area at that point. Connor Barron has come up. He's got the ball. I think he fires it to Max Aarons. It goes out to Findlay Curtis on the left-hand side, and he plays it back in for Max Aarons, who it's unclear if he's trying to curl the ball towards the far post, if he's going to have a shot or whatever, but it's Danilo is the man on the spot. A beautiful, Mr. Six Languages, but it's a really cultured finish. He's, how to do that one? He's kind of slightly stooping, slightly leaning back, just gets the glance on it, the really cultured glance with his head that sends it into the bottom corner under the keeper's dive. Lovely finish. Beautiful finish from Danilo, and he hates me. Danilo hates me. Last season I was there when he scored against Celtic at Hampden. I was there when he scored against Celtic at Ibrox. But this season he's only scoring against the closed doors games. You know, he's scoring against Barnsley, he's scoring against Hamilton Accies, he's scoring against Dunfermline behind closed doors. And then I don't go to the game yesterday, and he's scoring in that way. Didn't he score against Bruges? Didn't he score against Panathinaikos? I was at those games, so that's fine. You know, if that's the way you want to work it, you're going to be scoring at away games all season. That's absolutely fine, mate. But I will be taking this personally. Middlesbrough react by making 3 substitutions in the 71st minute, 2 substitutions in the 74th minute. Yes, I'm trying to incorporate stuff that I've read off the match reports into my own kind of match report because I wasn't at the game. But that couldn't halt Rangers. That couldn't halt our push to recover this game. We're going to keep our unbeaten record. Except apparently we played TNS. We lost 1-0 at Auchenhowie to the New Saints, a team that playing green and white hoops. We'd lost to them and we're that was actually the first game that Russell Martin head coached this Rangers team. I didn't know anything about this. This is the stuff you miss out if you're going to go on holiday. You're either in it or you're not. But our first defeat in front of a crowd was staved off because we were determined to get back into this game. Middlesbrough couldn't do anything about the ensuing comeback. 79th minute, Kieran Dow taking a corner, left-footed corner from the Govan stand side. As they were shooting towards the Broomlin second half, very unusual. But Raskin is at the back post, kind of adjacent area, kind of literally heads toward the back post. Middlesbrough feel they should have dealt with it a bit better, I think. It misses who it's aimed for, I think. But Nico Raskin gets in there, as he does, kind of ghost in the box, gets his head onto it, and it's a cracking header. Great save, point blank save from the Middlesbrough goalkeeper, but Findlay Kenneth Curtis, born the 9th of June 2006 in Balfron, wearing number 52. I'm determined to make up for the fact that I keep getting his name wrong. He's doing everything he can to me. He's treating me like Eddie Terrell. You know, he's Muhammad Ali and I'm Eddie Terrell in that fight. You know, what's my name? What's my name now? You got to remember my name, big man. I mean, he scored the other night. His first competitive first team goal. His first goal for the first team was an absolute belter against Bruges. I still got his name wrong in the post-match reaction pod to that one. So he's obviously heard that and he's just went, fuck this guy. So 52nd minute, wearing the number 52 jersey, he scores his first competitive goal for Rangers against Panathinaikos, making him the first Scotsman to score against Panathinaikos, well, in Europe anyway, since John Wark in the semi-finals in 1984-85. European Cup at Anfield, and I think probably that's it. I think it's probably there's a couple of Coleraine and Linfield players I need to track down. It's exactly their nationality that have scored against them. But they played against Swansea, I think, in the Cup Winners' Cup, and there was a lot of goals scored, but it was all by Welshmen. I've checked them all out. But I think Kenneth Curtis, born on the 9th of June 2006 in Balfron, is the first Scotsman to score against Panathinaikos in European competition since John Wark for Liverpool. John Wark, more famous for setting a goal-scoring record for Ipswich Town in the 1980-81 UEFA Cup. 14 goals he got in that tournament, equaling the record set by Jose Altafini, formerly nicknamed Mazzola, in the 1962-63 European Cup for Milan. But John Wark, is it a record that was it equalled or beaten by Jurgen Klinsmann in the final against Bordeaux in 1996, the UEFA Cup? Anyway, John Wark, really famous European player for Ipswich and for Liverpool. Findlay Curtis, what an achievement by him the other night, that goal. And he did it again yesterday, and this was two. He comes in at the back post, but the goalkeeper makes a save. But he can only really parry it because the header from Raskin is so good. and he can't hold the ball, and in comes Findlay Curtis from the left hand side with his right foot to poke it over the line. Perfect Poachers goal, and this is what we had two doozies on Tuesday night, two absolute belters from outside the box, or from the edge of the box even, from Findlay Curtis and from JD Gassama in that game against Panathinaikos. But yesterday it was two craftsmen at work, Danilo and Findlay Curtis, proper striker stuff. I think Danilo's goals round about the penalty spot. He gets it certainly between the 6-yard box and the 18-yard line, and then you have Findlay Curtis right in there where the boots are flying. Proper Gerd Muller stuff. He's on his arse, sliding that thing over the line. Proper and the ball wasn't going where it should go. A few times it looked like Middlesbrough were going to clear it, so it's proper concentration from Findlay Curtis. Two things about this goal. It proves that Nico Raskin should be an 8. He should play 8, as far as I'm. Nico Raskin should play 8 until he's 30 years old, and then he can be the best number 6 in Europe from age 30 to 40, probably. He could be one of the best 6s in Europe at that point in time. You think about the goal he set up for Robin Proper against Celtic at New Year back in January at Ibrox. You think the goal he scored against Celtic at Parkhead, ghosting into the box. What he did against Hibs in the final game of last season, setting up the first goal for Dessers and scoring that goal, our second goal of the game against Hibs at Easter Road in the final league game of last season. You think about the way he just moves into the box all the time. He's the way he's hitting the byline and cutting it back sometimes in European games. I think he scores a header against Union Saint-Gilloise in our last group game in the Europa League last season as well. He's pushing. He's got the energy. He's a great attacking force. He's got that low centre of gravity. He's stocky, even though he's a wee guy. He knows what he's doing, pushing forward. He might fancy himself the 6, and he's certainly very able to play 6. But Joe Rothwell's got that covered. We need cover, and we've got. I think Connor Barron covers that situation, that position really well too. Lyle Cameron looking a bit tasty yesterday. The little glimpses I got of him as well. But I think he should be, while he's got legs, while he's got the energy, and a killer touch and the sense of adventure that younger guys have. He should definitely stick. He should definitely be that 8 that Russell Martin wants him to be. Should Nico Raskin, if we hold on to him this season, still a while to go in the transfer market. And also, I think there's a message being put out, a few messages being put out by Russell Martin via these games, via these two friendlies we've had in front of a crowd at Ibrox. I'll talk. Sorry, and one he's using what Findlay Curtis is doing in these games as an example of what he wants for this Rangers team. I won't go into it right now. I'll talk first of all in general terms about that post-match presser from manager. That was it. The game we had another chance, I think, but it was 2 each. So we're unbeaten at Ibrox. We're unbeaten at Ibrox in the 3 games that Russell Martin has played. Next week, next Saturday, we've got a wee European game, a wee European trip on Wednesday night to the Olympic Stadium in Athens. Now, we have lost in Athens. We lost to Eck Athens the first time we ever played a Greek side in European competition. We started off losing to them, to the site, if not the actual stadium itself, of what became the Nea Philadelphia Stadium, which is where Olympiacos became the first Greek side to win a European trophy, beating Fiorentina in the 2024 Conference League final after extra time. And Olympiacos themselves we drew with. We've never lost to Panathinaikos in Panathinaikos. We've lost them at Ibrox in Europe in the Champions League, but we've never lost to Panathinaikos in a match in Athens, but neither have we played at the Olympic Stadium before. So this is quite amazing. Before we go to Motherwell, we've got to go to the Olympic Stadium in Athens, and Olympiacos, the only Greek side to win a European trophy, Panathinaikos, the only other Greek side to reach a European final. We've lost to none of the 3 of them, their place, and Olympiacos, their stadium, where we drew last season in the Europa League group stages. That's where Chelsea became the last team to win the European Cup Winners' Cup before we won the thing the following season. They won it after a replay against Real Madrid in the 1971 Cup Winners' Cup final. We won it the following season, of course. But Eck Athens are the Greek side to beat us, and we drew with PAOK as well. And PAOK Salonika, we drew with them under Dick Advocat in Latumba. We fought out a great 0-0 over there. So a decent record in Greece itself. And we're going to the Olympic Stadium on Wednesday, and then next Saturday evening, stupid kick-off time, we go to Fir Park, Motherwell, to play the last Scottish side to play Olympiacos at the Olympic Stadium in Europe, and Motherwell lost 3-0, which would be the result that would put us out of this, put us out of the Champions League on Wednesday. A result that's still quite likely, you might think, at this embryonic stage of Russell Martin's Rangers, but they went out. They went out Motherwell, having lost 2-0 at Fir Park in the first leg. That was the third qualifying round of the 2012-13 Champions League, a spot that they got because we dropped out into the bottom tier of Scottish football. So we were playing Challenge Cup football at Brecon and home to Queen of the South and all that, while Motherwell were playing Champions League football against Panathinaikos qualifiers, getting gubbed 5-0 on aggregate. So we're already doing better than that. It's just hang on there, things will eventually turn around. But after the game yesterday, Russell Martin's post-match presser, the quote for the ages is when the good ones came on. He's talking about when Rangers started playing well, when we started scoring goals. And that in this game yesterday, the good ones came on. That was a bit of a Freudian slip. I don't think so. He knows what he's talking about. He was talking about how he hated the attitude. He could see a sloppy attitude in the warm-up from the 11 that he started the game with, and he saw a sloppy attitude through the game, during the game itself. He was not happy with them at all. He wasn't holding back, and I think this is what he's doing in these first three, but particularly these two friendlies at Ibrox. He's used them quite mercilessly. He hasn't given a shit about the crowd that turns up, wanting to see the best Rangers players possible and all that. No, he's going to use these games as testers. He's looking after us in the long run. Anybody who's on the fringes of this team, anybody who might have been mumping and moaning about not getting into the team, any of the young players who believe in this, first team pathway shite, which I just don't. It's not a process. It's not like you just get on the conveyor belt and you automatically end up a first team player at Rangers. It's not your due. You have to earn it. You have to step up. You have to be good enough. And Russell Martin has just given these guys a chance. He's just given them enough rope to hang themselves. We're not going to see Leon King. Robin Propper has left. We're not going to see him again at Rangers. He's been sold. That all went through the last day or so. He finally sorted out his personal terms with 20. So the guy who scored for Motherwell on his debut for Rangers last season and did really well. He scored against Celtic at Ibrox, Robin Propper. He scored a cracking goal against Dundee United at Tannadice, which really helped us win that game that day. Was really good in Europe as well. The European stuff really suited him, but he just didn't. He got absolutely roasted by St Mirren a couple of times and just shown up badly in the against the in the bread and butter games that we call them in the domestic situation. So he had to go, and he went, and the manager went. Head coach went to extremes yesterday in his post-match press. There's a question from Stevie Clifford, and he was asking about Robin Propper leaving and asking him about players that have still got to leave. He's talking about Rabbi Matondo. I think Stevie Clifford mentioned Rabbi Matondo, Ridvan Yilmaz. There was somebody else, Ross McCausland. We're getting rumours that these guys are going to leave. That there's people in for them or whatever. Is that going? And Martin just said, he didn't deny any of that, but he didn't name names. He just said, obviously, there will be more players who have to go. I keep forgetting. There's so many players that are there from last season that I keep forgetting about, guys. I forgot about Rabbi Matondo. I forgot he was still at the club. He was something we'd have to. Kieran Dowell, I thought he was just gone. That's it. We never see him again. And there he is. He's back in. Obviously a favourite of Russell Martin's so far. It's early days. And there's players coming in now. It's just, never mind, we need to get players off the wage bill and we need to keep the squad manageable, the first team squad manageable. I need to know who's playing for Rangers these days. It's getting out of control. But Russell Martin was not naming names about who was going to be leaving, but he made a big deal about how Robin Propper is a fantastic human being. And even when he'd had to move him out of the first team squad to go and train with the kids or go and train with the reserves, he took it well, he understood it. It was nothing personal, it was just business. That's a message. That's a message to the outgoings. When I asked you to leave this squad, even though we haven't sold you yet, and even though Kevin Thelwell and Dan Purdy haven't found you another club yet, when I asked you to leave the first team squad and go and train elsewhere, do it. Or else be thought of poorly. And I think the Findlay Curtis, he keeps talking, I think Stevie Clifford might have asked him about Findlay Curtis as well. That's him scored 3 games at Ibrox this season, Findlay Curtis, pre-season, merging with the season. And he just extols his work rate. I heard Neil McCann, I watched back a bit of the live coverage from Premier Sports that I'd recorded when I was at the game against Panathinaikos the other night. I watched a bit of it when I got back, and it was Neil McCann talking about Findlay Curtis, how he wasn't the fastest. He wasn't the fastest, but he was just a good physical. He was quite strong physically, and he tried. He just worked his heart out. He's been at the club practically his whole life, for 2/3 of his short life, Findlay Curtis. But Neil McCann, who's part of the coaching team under Barry Ferguson, was extolling the virtues, the work ethic of Findlay Curtis, rather than so we end up we've got a player who's not the fastest playing wide left for us just now, and that's another way for Russell Martin to say, if you work hard, that's where your career pathway is. That's where your first team pathway is. If you work your backside off, I know you're going to take the instructions I give you, and you're going to pay attention to those instructions. You're not going to mump and moan if you're dropped. You're going to just get your head down and get on with it. That's him telling the other squad players. He's hung them out to dry, I think, on purpose. Hefty yesterday. That I don't know how he looked pretty poor at the first goal. We conceded. He's not been picked for the game against Panathinaikos. He's got somebody playing out of position, taking his place. Oscar Cortez and Josh Gentles, a young fella, and coming up through the Rangers Academy, etc. Josh Gentles and Oscar Cortez, a 4.5 million buy that we're starting to regret. Who's come back from a lot of injury problems and was also dropped the other night for the game against Panathinaikos. He was extolling their virtues as well, saying they're working really hard. This is Russell Martin was praising them. So it's, he's not going to just chuck you under the bus because he's not a player that you signed for the club. He's not a player. But he's shown, I think, Russell Martin, through these 2 home friendlies in front of a crowd, how he is going to deal with the legacy, the squad that he's inherited, and how he's going to merge it and what he wants from the players that he's going to bring in, the type of player that he wants. So it's putting out a message there, I think, to the whole squad, and laying down a bit of a marker, I think, to the rest of Scottish football. I'm finding it very impressive so far. I think it's no coincidence that we did win against Panathinaikos. We struggled. There was real poor moments against Panathinaikos, but I think it's no coincidence that we did win that game. That's a game where we again scored 2 goals only, as we have in all these games at Ibrox, but we didn't concede any. Looked at Oregoni a few times, but that's when he's put out the team he wants to put out, the players that he wants to field. He would have, if he's playing anybody in a competition right now, the players that he's got available to him, that's the 11 he would have picked. And they did the business. Whereas the 2 friendlies, which we've drawn to, we've gone 2-0 down, where the players that he's saying, right, show me what you can do. You're mumping and moaning. You maybe know what I think I want, but prove that you are. And they can't do it. Leon King's in the European squad, but I just don't think we're going to. It's not Leon King's fault. A young player, and he was deep-ended brutally. When the whole club, I think, was deep-ended brutally in that Champions League. Our first time back in the Champions League since we'd been in the lower leagues in Scotland. It was concertinaed Champions League group stage because we're trying to fit in this stupid World Cup that they played in December because they had it in Qatar. So I feel as if that was we needed the recovery time at least that you would get from a normal Champions League campaign, but it was all played over the course of 2 minutes, it felt like at the time. So Rangers just didn't have the depth then to cope with that, and ends up we have to deep end Leon King at Anfield, where he was great. At Ibrox against Liverpool, Conor Golson's getting off injured, and it was disastrous. And I don't know if that's affected him. I don't think he's ever really recovered from it properly. But he comes on at Old Trafford, and that's when we lose a last-minute goal. It's not all down to him. I mean, Jack Butland's a first-teamer and vastly experienced, and he made horrendous mistakes that night. But I feel as if that's kind of when we lost the game. So the manager is just giving these guys one last chance, and they've just proven to him that they don't deserve a slot, and I don't think we're going to see many of them again. And yeah, so all in all, I think we're heading in the right direction. I think there's many more transfers to happen, many more players to get sold, but the squad is definitely forming, and the ethos, there's a real freshness about what this manager is doing. And part of the reason I'm not really paying attention to things just now, I didn't feel a great need to go to the game yesterday, is because it's going to be okay. I just feel as if everything's going to be all right. Well, some of the greatest things in life do kind of come out of the blue. You know, you have a lottery win or something like that. But I think a lot of times in my life, anyway, something that I've really been after, I've really wanted, it kind of happens in a kind of broken down, not very dramatic way. It just becomes more and more realistic. I always go back, as an example, the Andy Murray thing. Andy Murray, I've used this before, sorry, was so wanting him to win Wimbledon. He's got to win Wimbledon. Want him to win a major, obviously, but wanted to see a British guy winning Wimbledon. And Andy Murray was getting closer and closer, and he's losing the final to Roger Federer. And oh God, it was a disaster. Was it ever going to happen? You know. And then they had that the Olympics. Tennis get brought into the Olympics. The Olympics were in London, so they play at Wimbledon, and I think it was only 2 sets they were playing in the final. He ends up he's back in the final against Federer. So it's at Wimbledon, but it's not the All England Club. It's not the Open. What is it? The Wimbledon Open Tennis Tournament, whatever it's actually called. It's not the men's singles final at Wimbledon. The actual tournament. It's not a Grand Slam tournament on the tennis tour. It's the Olympics. But he beats Roger. It's only 2 sets, I think. But he beats Roger Federer. They're not wearing the whites. They're wearing their team outfits. No, it's Britain against Switzerland. You know, but it's Andy Murray beating Roger Federer in a final in the centre court at Wimbledon, and it was a kind of little, all right, he can do it, and it's a kind of diluted, knocked down sort of way, and it gave you the reassurance that it was going to happen, and it kind of calmed you down. I feel we've been lusting after Rangers getting back to the top of Scottish football, since 2021. How's it going to happen? When's it going to happen? We're so far away. We're 17 points behind Celtic. We're 10 points behind Celtic, whatever. Celtic been winning trebles and doubles and things like that when we can't win the league. I think one of the moments that it's just kind of, we know what's going to happen now. We do know what's going to happen. That happened this year. It happened earlier this year. The takeover. You know, if Russell Martin isn't the man, then Kevin Thelwell and Dan Purdy probably are. Patrick Stewart probably is. They're probably going to get rid of him. They'll get rid of him before Christmas if things go really badly. You know, they'll get rid of him whenever they need to get rid of him, and we'll get in somebody else. And if they don't do it, well then Kevin Thelwell and Dan Purdy and Patrick Stewart will lose their job because, Parag Marath and Andrew Kavanagh, you don't make the amount of money or be in the jobs that they've been in without being utterly ruthless and knowing how to back a winner. They don't make many mistakes, these guys, so they will, bring in eventually the executive board that is capable of appointing the head coach who's capable of giving us the league champions. And we've got a level of financial comfort now, and a level of organisation, a level of sports franchise experience, that's been brought to the club that we haven't had for a decade. And as I say, I think that's actually, it makes me more, it's not a criticism of the previous board, it makes me more appreciative of the previous board for them getting to the point to bring that in. But I just feel as if I'm kind of really relaxed about stuff. Alec McLeish, what was his first games were against, well, strictly speaking, against Hibs, who he'd just been manager of, but he just sat in the director's box. We were playing Hibs in the first game since McLeish had become manager. Dick Advocat retained his place in the technical area before he moved upstairs. It was a draw at Ibrox. And then he went to Fir Park against another one of his old clubs that he'd managed, Alec McLeish, and he drew there as well. We drew 2 weeks that night against Motherwell at Fir Park. So it wasn't a great debut. Dick Advocat himself, he had that stick where he was down to Tranmere to play against Shelburne in the UEFA Cup early rounds, and we're 3-0 down. And we ended up winning the game 5-3, and then we beat them routinely at Ibrox in the second leg. So Russell Martin, compared to other managers, the starts that they've had, has done really well. I think his start has been pretty spectacular, just to have that win against Panathinaikos, a cracking win against a pretty big club. And I feel as if things are just kind of going to be okay. Whatever happens, I feel really relaxed. I feel as if the main battle has already been won. We need to see Rangers winning the title again. We need to see Rangers winning trophies and winning the league. But I've this incredibly relaxed, almost kind of distracted feeling coming into this season. I was reading an article the other day, excuse me, I'm talking about how I'm a better Rangers supporter than you, I'm a better person than you, I'm a really intellectual person. I was reading this thing about Mies van der Rohe, famous architect. We're wanting Russell Martin to be the supreme architect and designing this Rangers team into building a league title winning Rangers team. I was reading about the architect, famous architect Mies van der Rohe the other day, and it was an article by a guy called David Plaisance in the website Wallpaper, and he was talking about the weightless monumentality. I thought it was a great phrase, the weightless monumentality of the buildings that Mies van der Rohe built. They seem to float at times. That's just particularly the Farnsworth House in Plano, Illinois, the famous Farnsworth House, well, infamous at times, but it just seems to sit there floating in this kind of glass box, really. It looks, but. And I think that's what that second goal we scored the other night against Panathinaikos. There was a kind of weightless monumentality to that. You're just looking at that thing. And Mies van der Rohe, the famous quotes from Mies van der Rohe, less is more. You know, God is in the details. Not the devil is in the detail. God is in the detail. Get the details right. You know, and it'll suddenly become, heavenly. What you're looking at, what you're watching, the structure. You know, the beauty of it as well as the performance. And Mies van der Rohe was the last director of the Bauhaus, and their whole thing was, beauty through functionality. I think it's most beautiful when it performs best, when it's most practical, when it's most utilitarian. And I felt as if that second goal we scored the other night against Panathinaikos, even though these goals can happen when a team is down to 10 men and is trying to chase an equaliser, it was all killer, no filler. This wasn't the tippy-tappy possession football. It was kind of just possession football in safe areas that we were warned we would get under the head coachment of Russell Martin. This was sublime. This was peak football. That's my favourite kind of goal. My favourite goal scored by non-Rangers teams is the one that put Milan 3-0 up in the 2005 Champions League final in Istanbul, which they of course lost to Steven Gerrard's Liverpool. But that third goal they scored, because there's nothing wasted there. It's all beautiful movement, but it's all to a point. This isn't Barcelona tiki-taka passing it about endlessly at times. If it's in the hands of a team that can't really do the penetrative stuff, then it becomes like watching paint dry. That the other night, that second goal, Max Aarons just moving the ball so well to lose his guy, to lose the man that's on him and turn it into attack. And you get Egeman and you've got Diamandi, and then Gassama just takes it forward and bangs it into the bottom corner. That's the kind of goal I used to see getting scored against Rangers in the late 70s, into the 80s and through a lot of the 90s when I was watching Rangers in Europe, just dreaming of us one day getting to a European final. And the start to realising that was actually going to happen was against Panathinaikos in 2007-2008 in the UEFA Cup. That suddenly started, this could happen. But that goal we scored the other night was such that God was in the detail. He's saying to Russell Martin has said to young Findlay Curtis at half time in that game to stop taking the ball with your back to goal. Just turn and face it. Turn and face your opponent. And within 7 minutes of the second half starting, he's done that to unbelievable effect. He's got it. In games at this point in time, it's far too early to call it. Of course, far too early. Michael Beale's Rangers scored some fantastic goals, some fantastic counter-attacking goals, length of the pitch goals, real speed and grace, and fantastic finishes and things like that. Particularly remember I was going to Tannadice on a Sunday night. We won 2 or 3-0 over tremendous football that we played really stylish, and it turned into a complete disaster. So at this early moment in time, all I can take from Russell Martin, the start to his management, is that we look absolutely great in that goal, the second goal we scored against Panathinaikos. If that's what we're aiming towards, if that's the kind of football we're going for, then it's far from ostentatious. It's far from kind of pointlessly complicated. It's on the money, and that is my favourite kind of football. No flourishes, just getting the job done. Total Bauhausian, total Mies van der Rohe. It is just form as function. Function as form. That fish supper I had the other night, it's one of the most satisfying things I've ever had. I think because I chased it so long. I've been chasing it for 2 weeks, really. I finally got that fish supper and I sat down. I only managed to it was tea time. It was before 5 o'clock. I think I'd had it eaten on Friday night, and I only had about 2 more packets of crisps all night. And I had 4 beers. I had 4 cans of San Miguel. There's still another 3 left in the fridge. I was so satisfied. It just totally. I was sated in a way that I rarely am. I was genuinely chilled out. I was asleep for like midnight that night. It was great, and I think it's just because I feel so relaxed about everything, because I kind of know that I'm not really needed anymore. My job's done. I went to see Rangers, every single game last season because we were getting slagged rotten, because we were under pressure, because we're sacking managers. I was at every single home game. That was my bit. I had to, kind of man the barricades and all that. And I've missed very few home games since everything happened in 2012. But because I'm a better Rangers supporter than you, because I'm superior to everybody else who supports Rangers, I'm kind of stepping off. I'm a bit like Monica, in that episode of Friends where they've got the boys. They lost the bet to the boys, to Joey and Chandler, so they have to swap the flats. They swap flats with them, and Monica's like, she works all day to try and make the boys' flat kind of homely in the same way that their old flat had been, the old kind of studio flat across the hall. And everybody's there, and she's got wee things are cooked and all that, wee things, wee snacks. It's a wee party they're having, a wee kind of housewarming. And she's just looking round, and all her pals are tucking in, and they're like, Monica, do you want to have a drink? Do you want? She's like, no, I'm just let me lie here. I'm just going to watch yous. I'm just going to watch yous enjoying yourself. She lies on the couch, and she falls asleep with the exhaustion. That's why these podcasts are taking so long. I'm fucking exhausted, because it's been so tense over the past 10 years or so. Watching Rangers, it's been great fun as well. We've done amazing things. But I feel now, going into this season, pressure's off. I'm just going to lie. I don't have to go to every home game. I could miss yesterday's game because I think the hard work has been done. We've got everything in place, and now it's just a matter of waiting. And I'll be back Monday, Tuesday with a preview of our next epic game. Cheers, troops.